He had mansions, private jets, and more money than I could imagine. But he walked away from all of it, for me, just a regular girl, a black woman from a small town. I still ask myself why, but this is the story of how I found the kind of love people only dream of. After the hook, before diving into the story. If you love real stories about unexpected love, sacrifices, and deep emotions, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This one's personal, and I can't wait to hear what you think at the end. I grew up in a small town, the kind where everybody knows everybody and nothing ever really changes. We had one grocery store, two traffic lights, and more gossip than we knew what to do with. But I loved it. It was home. My mom, my little sister, and I lived in a tiny two-bedroom house with peeling paint and a porch swing that creaked like it held all our family's memories. We didn't have much, but we had each other. That was enough, most days. I worked at this cozy little cafe on Main Street. Nothing fancy, just coffee, muffins, and friendly smiles. I knew all the regulars by name and how they took their coffee. I liked the routine. It was simple, safe. I wasn't chasing big dreams or trying to escape. I just wanted a peaceful life, maybe someone to come home to who actually saw me. But that last part, that felt impossible. My love life. God, it was a joke. I gave my heart to men who didn't know how to hold it. I was either too much or not enough. I've been cheated on, ghosted, lied to. I've sat across dinner tables pretending everything was fine, while I felt like a stranger in my own skin. After a while, I stopped trying. Love started to feel like something other girls got. Girls who looked different, lived different. Not girls like me, with cocoa brown skin, tight curls I had to fight to tame every morning, and dreams I didn't say out loud anymore. So I stayed in my little town. I made coffee, paid bills, and smiled through the quiet ache in my chest. I told myself I was okay, that I didn't need love, but deep down, a part of me still hoped, just a little. It was a rainy Thursday. I remember that clearly. The kind of rain that taps soft against the windows and makes the world feel slower. I was working the morning shift, like always. Hair tied up in a bun, apron a little stained with yesterday's espresso, trying to stay awake on my third cup of coffee. Same old routine. Then he walked in. At first, I didn't think much of him. He looked normal. Wore a black hoodie, jeans, and old sneakers. No fancy watch, no Hollywood smile. Just a calm, quiet energy. He looked a little lost, like maybe he'd never been in our cafe before. I gave him the usual smile. "Hey there, what can I get started for you?" He smiled back, not forced, not flirty, just warm. "Just a black coffee, please," he said. No sugar, no cream. Straight up. He paid in cash, left a $5 tip, and sat in the corner by the window. For the next hour, he just sat there, looking out at the rain. He didn't pull out a phone. He didn't ask for Wi-Fi. Just sat, like he was trying to find some quiet. Then the next day, he came back. And the day after that, every morning, same order, same smile, same seat. And each time, he'd ask something small. "How's your day?" Or, "Is it always this quiet in here?" Just enough to feel noticed, but never too much. I started looking forward to him, wondering what he'd ask next, what he was thinking, why he kept coming back to a tiny cafe in a town no one ever visits. Back then, I had no idea who he really was, no idea how much he'd changed my life, no idea that the quiet man with the soft smile was hiding a $1 billion secret. I'll be honest, I thought he was just a quiet guy who liked coffee and rainy mornings. He never tried to impress me. No flashy talk, no smooth lines, just real conversations. And in a world full of filters and fake smiles, that felt rare. We started talking more. He asked about my favorite books, what music I liked, what I wanted out of life. I told him about my dream to open my own bookstore cafe one day, a space filled with stories, warmth, and soft jazz in the background. He listened, like really listened, eyes never drifting, like I was the only thing in the room that mattered. But then, one day, he offered me a ride home. It was raining again, and I didn't have my umbrella. I said yes, and when I stepped outside, I froze. His car wasn't just nice, it was the kind you only see in movies. Sleek, black, spotless, with leather seats that still had that new smell. I looked at him like, this yours? He just smiled and said, yeah, just a car. But it wasn't just a car. Later that night, my coworker Tasha saw him through the window. Her eyes went wide. Girl, do you know who that is? I shook my head. She grabbed her phone and started typing. Then she turned the screen to me. His name popped up. Interviews, Forbes articles, company names I couldn't even pronounce. He wasn't just some guy. He was a tech billionaire, CEO, investor, world traveler, worth hundreds of millions. I sat there, stunned. Why would someone like him keep showing up for someone like me? I didn't know whether to feel flattered or afraid. Was this real? Or was I just entertainment in his world? Something didn't add up. After I found out who he really was, I didn't know how to act. Part of me wanted to treat him the same, but another part couldn't stop hearing that number, billionaire. It echoed in my head every time he smiled at me, every time he walked in like nothing had changed. But he noticed the shift. A few days later, he stayed after closing, just the two of us. He asked gently, did I do something wrong? I paused for a second, then finally said it. I Googled you. He nodded like he expected it. Okay, he said. And what did you find? I laughed nervously. That you own half the tech world and your shoes cost more than my rent. He chuckled softly. Yeah, that's probably true, but I'm still me. And somehow I believed him. He kept things simple, even when he didn't have to. Instead of fancy restaurants, he'd bring takeout and we'd sit in the park, eating on a bench and talking for hours. He never bragged, never made me feel small. He asked about my mom, my childhood, what scared me. He remembered everything I said, even the tiny things. And the more we talked, the more I forgot about who he was on paper. Because with him, I didn't feel like just a black girl from a small town. I felt seen. He looked at me like I was magic, like I was the one with something rare. But even with all that, I couldn't shake this question. Why me? I didn't have money, influence, or some glamorous life. I had scars. I had doubts. I had trust issues I never talked about. Still, he showed up. Day after day, moment by moment, he showed up. And slowly, I started to let him in. As much as I liked him, I started to pull away. It wasn't something I planned. It just happened. I'd answer his texts slower. I stopped smiling as wide when he walked in. I made excuses when he asked to hang out. Every time things started to feel too good, this little voice in my head would whisper, "Don't trust it. This isn't real." Because I'd been down this road before. Guys who made promises, said all the right things, acted like they cared, and then disappeared without warning. And he wasn't just some guy. He was a billionaire. I couldn't help but think, maybe I'm just a phase, something different, a story he'll tell one day to his rich friends. I didn't want to be anyone's experiment. One night, I finally said it out loud. I don't think I belong in your world, I told him, arms crossed, heart racing. He looked at me, really looked at me, and then he said something I'll never forget. Then I'll leave that world behind. I laughed, thinking he was joking. But his face was serious, calm, like he meant every word. You don't get it, I said. People like you don't leave anything behind. You don't need me. You could have anyone. I don't want anyone, he said. I want you. I didn't know what to say. No one had ever looked at me like I was enough before. Not in that way. Not without conditions or expectations. But even with his words, my walls were still up. Because love, real love, isn't proven in promises, it's proven in actions. And deep down, I needed to see if he meant what he said or if this would be another heartbreak I'd have to heal from. I wasn't ready to fall, not yet. I thought he'd move on. I really did. After that night, after I pushed him away, I expected him to disappear like everyone else. I told myself it was for the best, that I was protecting my peace, my heart, my little world. But truthfully, I missed him every single day. I missed the way he looked at me like I mattered, like I was rare. But then, he came back, not just with words, but with actions. He started pulling away from the spotlight, quietly. No big announcements, no drama. He began stepping back from his company, skipping high-profile events, turning down massive investor meetings. One day, he told me he sold a company he'd built from the ground up, just so he could breathe again. I didn't believe it at first. You gave up millions, I whispered, shocked. He just smiled and said, "What good is money if it keeps me away from the one thing that makes me feel alive?" His friends thought he was losing his mind. His business partners tried to talk sense into him. Even the media started noticing. Why is the tech mogul stepping back? The rumors were wild, but he didn't explain himself to anyone. Only to me. He said, "I've had money, fame, everything, but I never had peace. I never had you." And I felt something shift inside me. Because for the first time, someone didn't just love me in private. They chose me in public, loudly, fearlessly. He let go of a world most people would kill to be part of, just to build one with me. And in that moment, I realized he wasn't chasing attention. He was chasing home. And somehow, against all odds, I had become that for him. And now I wasn't so afraid to fall anymore. At first, our love was quiet, just ours, safe. But it didn't stay that way for long. When people found out who he was, and that he was with me, a black girl from a nowhere town, everything changed. Headlines started popping up, blogs, tweets. People had opinions. Some of them were sweet, most were not. Gold digger. She's not on his level. Why her? I tried to ignore it. I told myself it didn't matter. But it did. It hurt. Bad. People who didn't know me were tearing me apart like I was a story instead of a person. One night, I told him I couldn't do it. I said, "Maybe I'm not built for your world." He took my hand and whispered, "Then let's build our own." I cried. Not because I was weak, but because no one had ever fought for me like that before. He didn't tell me to toughen up or brush it off. He saw my pain and sat with it. Love in public isn't easy, but real love, it doesn't shrink in the spotlight. He stood by me, not behind me, not in front, but beside me. And for the first time, I knew I wasn't standing alone. After all the noise, we went quiet again. On purpose. He stopped trying to impress me with grand gestures. Instead, he started showing up in the ways that truly mattered. He'd drive 2 hours just to have dinner with my mom, helped my sister with her college applications, spent weekends fixing the porch steps that had been broken for years. He didn't bring his old world into mine. He respected it, loved it, chose it. He started a nonprofit in my hometown, quietly, without press or cameras. It helped kids with tech skills and gave scholarships to students who couldn't afford college. He told me it's not charity, it's investment in people who remind me of you, smart, kind, and overlooked. I watched this man who once lived in luxury find joy in the simplest things: cooking Sunday breakfast, dancing barefoot in the kitchen, reading books I loved just so we could talk about them. And I realized something powerful. Real love isn't in yachts or diamonds. It's in shared laughs, slow mornings, and being someone's peace. He gave up everything society called success and somehow gained more. And in that quiet, everyday love, I finally felt rich too. One night, we were lying on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, soft music playing, just breathing together, and I asked him the question that had been sitting in my chest from the very beginning. Why me? He turned to me, eyes steady, no pause, no hesitation. Because you see me, not the money, not the name, just me. He said in a world full of fake smiles, I was real, that I didn't treat him like a trophy or a paycheck, that I challenged him, grounded him, made him feel like he could be without performing. I spent years building a world that looked perfect, he whispered, but with you, I finally feel free. And that's when I understood. He didn't fall for me in spite of who I was. He fell because of it. My strength, my softness, my honesty, the way I loved out loud, even when I'd been hurt before. He chose me not because I fit into his world, but because I helped him escape it. And in loving him, I found parts of myself I never knew existed. I didn't need to change for him. I just needed to be exactly who I already was. We didn't move into a mansion. We didn't run off to some private island. Instead, we stayed in my town. We bought a small house near the edge of the woods, where the mornings are quiet and the air smells like freedom. He built me a tiny bookstore cafe, just like the one I used to dream about when I was younger. I picked the paint colors, the music playlists, and the softest chairs I could find. He handled the behind the scenes stuff, licensing, systems, website. We worked side by side. Every morning, he'd kiss my forehead, brew the first pot of coffee, and unlock the front door like he was the luckiest man alive. Some people still don't get it. They say he gave up everything, but the truth is, he finally gained something real. And me? I didn't just get a love story. I got a partner, a home, a forever. We built a life out of slow mornings, laughter, and small joys. A life that looks nothing like the ones in the magazines, but feels better than anything money could buy. It's not perfect, it's real. And that's more than enough for me. If you believe love is worth the risk, drop a heart in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I have more real love stories to share. This was mine. What's yours?